Have you ever found yourself searching? Searching for meaning, for comfort, for something that feels real in a world that seems so fleeting? Maybe you've been chasing the next promotion, the next relationship, the next approval, always reaching but never quite arriving. And in those quiet moments, when the noise of the world dies down and the shadows grow long, have you ever wondered why nothing fills the emptiness within? Imagine a traveler in the desert, parched and desperate for water. He stumbles upon a mirage, a shimmering pool on the horizon. With all his strength, he drags himself forward, heart pounding with hope, only to find dry sand where life-giving water should be. How often do we chase mirages? Wealth, recognition, even the love of others, they promise fulfillment, but in the end, leave us thirsty, yearning, and disillusioned. Now picture a different scene. A child, lost and trembling in the dark, hears the voice of their parent calling out. That voice doesn't just guide, it comforts, it reassures, it brings hope. Suddenly the darkness no longer feels as threatening. The child doesn't need to see the way because the voice is enough. They know who holds their hand, and in that knowledge, fear dissolves. What if life is not about searching for something but someone? What if the ache in your soul, the void that nothing else can fill, is a whisper from eternity calling you back to the only source of true satisfaction? What if the answer you've been chasing is not in the temporary things of this world, but in the infinite, the eternal? The truth is, everything you're striving for, peace, love, joy, purpose, already exists in one place, or rather one being. You see, we were not created to find fulfillment in things. We were created for relationship, for communion with the divine. And until we recognize that God is not just an option but the only answer, we will remain like that traveler in the desert, thirsty, weary, and lost. This isn't about religion or rituals. It's not about performing to earn favor or ticking off spiritual checkboxes. No, it's about coming home to the very source of life. It's about realizing that the God who spoke galaxies into existence, who painted sunsets and carved mountains, is the same God who knows the number of hairs on your head, who sees your tears and hears your prayers. This God doesn't just want to be a part of your life, He is life itself. So I ask you, what are you holding on to that can never hold you back? What are you clinging to that can never save you? What are you pursuing that was never meant to complete you? Maybe the reason you feel so tired, so burdened, is because you're carrying weights you were never meant to bear. And maybe, just maybe, the answer isn't in holding tighter, but in letting go of everything and reaching for the one who has been reaching for you all along. Stay with me, because I'm about to show you why God is all you need, not just in the difficult times, but in every moment of your life. Together, we'll explore 10 powerful truths that will change the way you see your struggles, your purpose, and your very existence. The answers you've been searching for might just be simpler than you think. This message is not just about hope, it's an invitation to experience the fullness of life as it was meant to be. Will you let go of the temporary and embrace the eternal? God is all you need. Let's walk this journey together. Have you ever noticed how elusive peace can be? We chase it in countless ways through vacations, success, relationships, and even material possessions. We say to ourselves, if I just get this one thing, I'll finally be at peace. But when that goal is achieved, the peace is fleeting, almost like sand slipping through your fingers. And then you're off chasing the next thing. It's exhausting, isn't it? That endless pursuit of something that feels so close, yet always out of reach. But here's the truth that the world doesn't tell you: peace isn't something you chase, it's something you receive. God is the source of all peace, and it's not the kind of peace you'll find in temporary escapes or fleeting distractions. It's a peace that surpasses all understanding, a peace that anchors your soul when everything around you feels like it's falling apart. You see, this peace isn't dependent on your circumstances. It doesn't waver when the storms of life hit. It's steady, unshakable, and available to you right now. But here's the catch: you can't manufacture it on your own. It comes from surrendering to the one who holds the universe in his hands. Think about the weight you carry every day, the burdens of responsibility, the pressure to succeed, the fear of failure. It's like walking through life with a heavy backpack, and every new worry adds another stone. But when you turn to God, something extraordinary happens. He doesn't just lighten your load, He carries it for you. He whispers to your weary soul, "Be still and know that I am God." Those words aren't just poetic, they're a lifeline. They remind you that you don't have to have it all figured out because He already does. And let's talk about the storms. Life throws curveballs, unexpected losses, financial struggles, broken relationships. It's easy to feel like you're drowning, gasping for air as the waves keep coming. But when God is your source of peace, those waves don't have the same power over you. They may crash around you, but they won't consume you. Because you know deep in your heart that the one who calmed the storm with a single word is the same one who stands with you in your storm. This peace isn't passive, it's active. It's a force that strengthens you, gives you clarity, and empowers you to face challenges with courage. It's the kind of peace that allows you to sleep soundly even when the world feels chaotic. It's the peace that allows you to forgive when you've been wronged, to let go of bitterness, and to move forward without the chains of resentment. It's the peace that allows you to live fully, knowing that you're held by the one who loves you beyond measure. But here's the question you need to ask yourself: are you willing to let go of control? Because peace comes from trust, and trust requires surrender. It's not about being passive or giving up. It's about recognizing that you don't have to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. You don't have to fight every battle on your own. God is inviting you to step into a place of rest, a place where peace isn't just a feeling but a state of being. In a world where so much feels uncertain, one thing remains constant: God's love. But let's be honest, love, as we experience it in this world, can often feel fragile. Relationships can be unpredictable, and even the people who love us the most can disappoint us. Sometimes that disappointment isn't intentional, it's just the reality of being human. And because of that, many of us have built walls around our hearts, afraid to fully trust or fully love. We've been hurt too many times, and we've convinced ourselves that love is conditional, something we have to earn or fight to keep. But God's love is different. It doesn't waver based on your performance. It doesn't increase when you're doing well or decrease when you fall short. It's constant, unshakable, and immeasurable. Think about that for a moment. The God who created galaxies, who placed the stars in the sky, looks at you and says, "You are loved beyond measure, not because of what you've done, but simply because of who you are, His child." This kind of love is hard to comprehend, isn't it? We live in a world where everything feels transactional. I'll love you if, or I'll care about you as long as, but God's love has no conditions. It's not based on your past, your failures, or even your potential. It's based on His very nature. God doesn't just choose to love, He is love. And that love reaches into the deepest, darkest corners of your life, the places you try to hide from others and even yourself. Here's the beauty of it: God's love doesn't just accept you as you are, it transforms you. When you truly grasp the depth of His love, it changes the way you see yourself, others, and the world around you. You begin to understand that you're not defined by your mistakes, your successes, or the opinions of others. You're defined by the fact that you are deeply and eternally loved by the Creator of the universe. But let's be real, it's not always easy to believe, is it? Especially when life feels overwhelming or when you've been told you're not enough. Those voices, whether they come from others or from within, can be deafening. But God's love drowns out those voices. It says, "You are enough because I am enough." It says, "You are worthy because I made you." And when you let that love sink in, it silences the doubts and fears that have held you captive for so long. This love is also incredibly freeing. You don't have to strive or perform to earn it. You don't have to wear a mask or pretend to be something you're not. God sees you fully, every flaw, every fear, every failure, and He loves you anyway. He doesn't just love the best version of you, He loves the messy, broken, imperfect version of you. And that kind of love gives you the courage to be real, to be vulnerable, to be exactly who He created you to be. But perhaps the most powerful thing about God's love is that it never changes. No matter what you do or where you go, His love remains the same. In a world that is constantly shifting, this love is your anchor. It's the one thing you can count on when everything else feels uncertain. And when you truly embrace it, you'll realize that it's not just enough, it's more than enough. Have you ever wondered why so many people, even those who seem to have it all, money, fame, success, still feel empty inside? Why is it that after achieving everything they dreamed of, they often ask, "Is this it?" It's because purpose is not something you can find in accomplishments or accolades. True purpose doesn't come from what you achieve, it comes from understanding why you exist. And that answer doesn't lie in you, it lies in God. We live in a world that tells us to create our own purpose, to follow our dreams, to make a name for ourselves. And while there's nothing wrong with ambition, the problem is that it's often rooted in a need for validation. We think, if I can just prove myself, then I'll matter. But here's the hard truth: no matter how much you accomplish, no matter how high you climb, if your purpose isn't grounded in something eternal, it will never satisfy. God provides true purpose because He created you with intention. You are not an accident, a product of random chance, or just another face in the crowd. Before the foundations of the world were laid, God thought of you. He designed you uniquely, with a specific role to play in His grand story. And this purpose isn't just about what you do, it's about who you are becoming. It's about reflecting His love, His goodness, and His grace in every aspect of your life. But here's where it gets personal. Many people go through life feeling lost, as if they're wandering without direction. They try different paths, careers, relationships, hobbies, hoping to stumble upon something that makes them feel alive. And when one path doesn't work, they move on to the next, only to find the same emptiness waiting for them. But what if the reason you feel lost is that you've been looking in the wrong places? What if your true purpose isn't something you need to find, but something you need to receive? God's purpose for your life isn't hidden or unreachable. It's not a puzzle you need to solve or a prize you need to earn. It's a gift, freely given to those who seek Him. And when you align yourself with God's purpose, something extraordinary happens. Your life gains clarity. The things that used to overwhelm you lose their power because you see them in the context of a bigger picture. Even the challenges and setbacks take on new meaning because you understand that they're not obstacles but opportunities to grow into the person God created you to be. Purpose also brings freedom. When you know that your worth doesn't come from what you do, but from who God says you are, you no longer have to chase approval or fear failure. You're free to take risks, to step out in faith, to pursue the dreams God has placed in your heart without the burden of needing to prove yourself. And this freedom isn't just for you, it's for the people around you. When you live out your God-given purpose, you inspire others to do the same. So, what is your purpose? It's not just about a career or a calling, it's about living a life that glorifies God. It's about using your gifts, talents, and experiences to make a difference in the world. It's about loving others the way God loves you, serving with humility, and walking in faith even when the path isn't clear. And here's the best part: God doesn't leave you to figure it out on your own. He walks with you, guiding you step by step, revealing His plan in His perfect timing. How often have you faced a situation and thought, "I can't do this"? Maybe it was a challenge at work, a family crisis, or a battle with your own fears and doubts. The weight of it felt unbearable, and no matter how hard you tried, you couldn't see a way forward. In those moments, it's easy to feel weak, helpless, and even defeated. But what if I told you that your greatest weakness could become your greatest strength? That's the paradox of God's power. It's not about what you can do, it's about what He can do through you. God's power is sufficient, and it's unlike any power you've ever known. It's not the kind of power that dominates or controls. It's the kind of power that lifts you up when you're at your lowest, that gives you strength when you have none left to give, This power doesn't rely on your abilities, your resources, or your plans. It operates on a completely different level, a level that transcends human limitations. Think about the times in your life when you felt overwhelmed. Maybe you were trying to fix something that seemed broken beyond repair. Maybe you were carrying burdens that weren't meant for you to carry. And no matter how hard you tried, it felt like you were sinking deeper and deeper. Those are the moments when God's power shines the brightest, because when you reach the end of yourself, that's where He begins. God's power doesn't just help you survive, it helps you overcome. It's the kind of power that turns impossibilities into possibilities, that takes what the world says is hopeless and turns it into a testimony of His greatness. It's the power that parted the Red Sea, that brought down the walls of Jericho, that raised the dead to life. And here's the incredible truth: that same power is available to you. But accessing God's power requires one thing: surrender. It's not about trying harder or being stronger. It's about admitting that you can't do it on your own and inviting God to step in. And when you do, you'll experience a strength that's not your own. A strength that carries you through the darkest valleys and lifts you to the highest peaks. This isn't just a promise, it's a reality for anyone who trusts in Him. God's power is also incredibly personal. He doesn't just work on a global scale, He works in the intimate details of your life. He knows your struggles, your fears, and your doubts, and He meets you exactly where you are, with exactly what you need. Sometimes that looks like a miraculous breakthrough. Other times, it looks like the quiet assurance that you're not alone. Either way, His power is always enough. What makes God's power so unique is that it's not just for you, it's also through you. When you rely on His strength, you become a vessel of His power, a light in the darkness for others. Your story of overcoming, of leaning on God when you had nothing left, becomes a testimony that inspires and encourages those around you. And that's the beauty of God's power. It's not just about what He does for you, it's about what He does through you to impact the world. You don't have to have it all together. You don't have to be the strongest or the smartest or the most capable. God isn't looking for perfection, He's looking for surrender. And when you give Him your weakness, He gives you His strength, a strength that is limitless, unchanging, and always sufficient. Have you ever felt the weight of regret, like a chain dragging you down, making it impossible to move forward? Maybe it's something you've done in the past, a mistake you can't undo, or words you wish you could take back. The guilt clings to you, whispering that you'll never be good enough, that you'll always be defined by that one moment. It's a heavy burden, isn't it? But here's the truth that changes everything. God offers redemption and forgiveness, and with Him, your past doesn't define your future. Imagine for a moment that your life is like a painting. Over time, mistakes, failures, and sins have splattered across the canvas, leaving it messy and unrecognizable. You may look at it and think, this can never be fixed. It's ruined. But when you hand that canvas over to God, He doesn't throw it away. Instead, He takes every smudge, every misstep, and transforms it into something beautiful. Redemption isn't just about erasing the past, it's about repurposing it. God doesn't waste anything, not even your pain. Forgiveness is at the heart of redemption, and it's a gift that only God can offer fully and unconditionally. The world might tell you that forgiveness has to be earned, that you need to work off your debt, or prove you're worthy of a second chance. But God's forgiveness doesn't come with strings attached. It's not based on your ability to make things right, it's based on His unchanging love for you. When you come to Him with a repentant heart, He doesn't just forgive, He forgets. He wipes the slate clean and gives you a fresh start. But here's something even more powerful. God's forgiveness isn't just about setting you free from the guilt of your mistakes. It's about setting you free to live the life you were created for. Sin doesn't just stain your past, it weighs down your present and clouds your future. When God forgives you, He lifts that burden, breaks those chains, and releases you into a new way of living. Redemption means you're no longer a prisoner to your failures, you're a child of God walking in His grace. You might be thinking, but what I've done is too big, too awful, too unforgivable. Let me remind you, there's no sin so great that God's grace isn't greater. His mercy is limitless, His compassion boundless. The very essence of redemption is that it's not about what you've done, it's about what He's done for you. Jesus paid the ultimate price so that you could be forgiven, so that you could be free. And when you accept that gift, you're not just pardoned, you're transformed. Redemption is also a process. It's not just a one-time event, it's a journey of becoming. God doesn't just forgive and leave you where you are. He walks with you, guiding you, shaping you, and using even your mistakes to draw you closer to Him. That's the beauty of His grace. It doesn't just save you, it changes you. It gives you a new identity, not as someone defined by their failures, but as someone defined by His love. Have you ever felt an emptiness inside? A hollow space that nothing seems to fill? Maybe you've tried to fill it with achievements, relationships, possessions, or experiences. You think, if I just get this job, this car, this partner, I'll finally feel complete. And yet, no matter how much you acquire, the void remains. It's like pouring water into a jar with a hole at the bottom. No matter how much you try, it's never enough. But that emptiness isn't a flaw. It's a sign. It's a reminder that the only thing that can fill that space is God. We were created with a longing for something eternal, something greater than ourselves. That longing isn't a mistake. It's a divine design. It's as if God placed a piece of eternity in our hearts, a space that only He can occupy. And until we recognize that, we'll keep searching, keep striving, keep chasing things that were never meant to satisfy us. The world offers countless substitutes, but none of them can truly fill the void. They might distract you for a while, but eventually the emptiness returns. When you invite God into your life, something miraculous happens. That void that once felt so overwhelming begins to disappear. You realize that the peace, joy, and fulfillment you've been searching for weren't missing because you lacked something, they were missing because you lacked someone. God doesn't just fill the void, He overflows it. His presence is so abundant, so complete, that it spills over into every aspect of your life, transforming not just your heart, but your perspective, your relationships, and your purpose. But here's the thing. Letting God fill that void requires letting go of the things you've been using to fill it yourself. It's not easy to release the idols we've clung to, whether it's success, approval, or even the need to be in control. But when you do, you discover something extraordinary. The things you thought you couldn't live without pale in comparison to the richness of God's presence. He doesn't just meet your needs, He exceeds them. God filling the void doesn't mean life will be without challenges. The storms will still come, and the trials will still test you. But the difference is you'll face them with a fullness that can't be shaken. You'll no longer be running on empty, trying to muster strength you don't have. Instead, you'll draw from the infinite well of God's love, grace, and power. That's the kind of fullness that sustains you, not just in the good times, but in the hard times as well. And let's not forget the joy. When God fills the void, He doesn't just give you peace. He gives you joy, the kind of joy that doesn't depend on circumstances, that isn't diminished by setbacks. It's a joy that bubbles up from within, rooted in the unshakable truth that you are loved, valued, and held by the Creator of the universe. That joy becomes your strength, your anchor, and your testimony to the world. So, if you're tired of feeling empty, tired of chasing things that never satisfy, know this: God is waiting. He's ready to fill the void, to give you what nothing else can. All you have to do is open your heart and let Him in. Because with God, the emptiness doesn't just fade, it's replaced by a fullness that will never run dry. Have you ever felt like you're wandering through life without a map, unsure of which path to take or what decision to make? Maybe you've stood at a crossroads, burdened by the weight of choices, afraid to move forward because you didn't know if the step you were about to take was the right one. It's an unsettling feeling, isn't it? Like being lost in a dense forest with no clear direction, every turn seeming just as uncertain as the last. But what if I told you that there is a guide who knows the way? who has seen the end from the beginning, and whose wisdom is flawless. That guide is God, and his guidance is perfect. Life is full of uncertainties, and our limited perspective often makes it difficult to see the bigger picture. We can't always predict the outcomes of our choices or understand why certain doors open while others close. But God doesn't just see the big picture, he is the big picture. He knows the path you're meant to take, the lessons you need to learn, and the timing that's best for you. His guidance isn't based on guesswork, it's rooted in his infinite knowledge and his unchanging love for you. Think about the times when you've tried to figure things out on your own. Maybe you relied on your own understanding, only to find yourself in a situation that felt even more confusing or difficult. It's a humbling realization, isn't it? That no matter how intelligent or capable we think we are, our human wisdom has its limits. But God's wisdom is limitless, and when you trust in him, he leads you in ways that are higher, better, and beyond what you could ever imagine. God's guidance doesn't always come in the way we expect. Sometimes it's a gentle nudge, a quiet whisper in your heart, or a sense of peace that accompanies a decision. Other times, it's a closed door or a detour that feels frustrating in the moment, but turns out to be a blessing in disguise. The beauty of God's guidance is that it's always intentional, always purposeful. Even when it doesn't make sense to us, it's working for our good. But here's the key. Trusting God's guidance requires letting go of control. It means surrendering your plans, your timelines, and your expectations to the one who knows what's best for you. That's not easy, especially when you can't see the full picture. But when you choose to trust him, you'll find a peace that comes from knowing you're not walking alone. You're being led by the creator of the universe, the one who knows you better than you know yourself. God's guidance is also deeply personal. He doesn't lead you with a generic one-size-fits-all plan. He knows your unique strengths, weaknesses, dreams, and struggles. His guidance is tailored to your journey, designed to help you become the person he created you to be. And the more you seek him, the clearer his voice becomes. Through prayer, scripture, and the prompting of the Holy Spirit, he reveals his will for your life step by step. When you follow God's guidance, you're not just making decisions, you're walking in purpose. Each step becomes part of a greater plan, a divine story that's being written for his glory and your good. Even the detours, the setbacks, and the seasons of waiting are part of that plan. They're shaping you, refining you, and preparing you for what's ahead. And when you look back, you'll see how every twist and turn was orchestrated with perfect precision. Have you ever felt misunderstood, like no one truly sees you for who you are? Maybe you've been judged by your mistakes or defined by labels that don't tell the whole story. It's a lonely feeling, isn't it? To be surrounded by people, but still feel invisible, as if no one truly understands the battles you're fighting or the dreams you're carrying. But here's the truth that changes everything. God knows you completely. He sees every part of you, the good, the bad, the broken, and he loves you more than you can comprehend. God's knowledge of you isn't superficial. It's not like the way people know you based on what they see or what you choose to share. His knowledge is deep, intimate, and all-encompassing. He knows your thoughts before you think them, your words before you speak them, and your actions before you take them. He knows the desires of your heart, the fears you try to hide, and the pain you carry in silence. And the most incredible part, none of it scares him. None of it changes his love for you. Think about this. God knew you before you were even born. He saw your unformed substance, intricately weaving you together in your mother's womb. Every detail of who you are, your personality, your strengths, your quirks was crafted by his hands with purpose and care. You are not an accident or a mistake. You are a masterpiece, fearfully and wonderfully made by the creator of the universe. Because God knows you completely, he understands you in ways that no one else can. He knows why you react the way you do, why certain things hurt you, and why you struggle with the things you do. He sees past your defenses, your masks, and your mistakes to the person you truly are, the person He created you to be. And because of that, His love for you isn't based on who you pretend to be. It's based on who you are, flaws and all. This kind of knowledge brings freedom. You don't have to hide or perform for God. You don't have to prove yourself or earn His approval. He sees you fully, and He loves you fully. That means you can come to Him just as you are, broken, messy, and imperfect, and know that you are accepted. You don't have to fear rejection because His love is unconditional. God's complete knowledge of you also means that He knows what's best for you. He sees the paths you can't see, the dangers you don't know about, and the blessings you're not yet ready to receive. His guidance isn't based on guesswork, it's rooted in His perfect understanding of who you are and who you're meant to become. When you trust Him, you're trusting the one who knows you better than you know yourself. And here's the most beautiful part: God doesn't just know you completely, He delights in you. He rejoices over you with singing, takes pleasure in your unique gifts, and celebrates the person He created you to be. Even in your struggles and failures, He sees your potential, your resilience, and the beauty of His handiwork in you. You are His child, and He treasures you beyond measure. Knowing that God knows you completely changes the way you see yourself. You're no longer defined by your mistakes, your achievements, or the opinions of others. You're defined by the fact that you are known and loved by the God of the universe. And that knowledge gives you the confidence to walk through life with your head held high, knowing that you are fully seen, fully loved, and never alone. Life is a sea, and all of us are sailors, navigating its unpredictable waters. Sometimes the sea is calm, and everything feels in order, but other times it's wild, with waves crashing against us, threatening to capsize our fragile boats. Have you ever felt that way? Like you're caught in a storm, struggling to stay afloat, grasping at anything that might keep you steady. It's in these moments that we realize how much we need an anchor, something unshakable, something that holds firm no matter how turbulent the waters become. And that anchor is God. God is your eternal anchor, the one thing in this ever-changing world that never shifts, never falters, never fails. Think about it, everything else in life is temporary. Jobs come and go, relationships can change, health can decline, and possessions can be lost in an instant. Even the things we treasure most are vulnerable to the winds of time. But God remains constant. He is the same yesterday, today, and forever, a foundation that will never crumble, no matter how fierce the storm. When you rely on God as your anchor, you're not exempt from life's challenges. The storms will still come, the waves will still crash. But the difference is you're no longer at the mercy of those waves. With God as your anchor, you are held steady. You might be tossed about, but you won't be lost. You might feel shaken, but you won't be destroyed. His presence in your life gives you the strength to endure, the courage to persevere, and the peace to trust that you are secure. Imagine being in the middle of a stormy sea with nothing to hold on to. It's terrifying, isn't it? But now picture having a sturdy anchor, one that is deeply rooted, unmovable even in the fiercest of winds. That's what God offers, a stability that no storm can take away. His promises are like that anchor chain, connecting you to His unshakable truth. He promises never to leave you, never to forsake you. He promises to be with you in the fire, in the flood, and in the darkest valleys. And when you hold on to those promises, you find a peace that defies understanding. But being anchored in God isn't just about surviving the storms, it's about thriving in them. When you trust in Him, your perspective shifts. You begin to see the storms not as something to fear, but as opportunities to grow. The winds that threaten to knock you down can also strengthen your faith, deepen your character, and draw you closer to Him. Because here's the truth, it's often in the storms that we come to know the anchor most intimately. It's when everything else is stripped away that we discover just how reliable, how steadfast, how faithful God truly is. Being anchored in God also changes the way you approach life's uncertainties. Instead of being paralyzed by fear of the unknown, you can step forward with confidence, knowing that your anchor holds firm. You don't have to have all the answers because you trust in the one who does. You don't have to control every outcome because you know that he is in control. And you don't have to fear the future because you are anchored to the one who holds it in his hands. And here's the most beautiful part: God's anchor isn't just for this life, it's for eternity. While everything else fades, his love, his presence, and his promises remain forever. When you are anchored in him, you are connected to something eternal, something that will carry you not just through the storms of today, but into the everlasting peace of tomorrow. This anchor doesn't just hold you steady, it draws you closer to the shore of his eternal kingdom. The question is, where is your anchor? Is it in things that can be shaken, things that can be lost, things that will one day pass away? Or is it in the eternal, unchanging, ever-faithful God who holds you steady through every storm? When you choose him as your anchor, you're not just securing your life, you're securing your soul. Have you ever longed for something, thinking it would finally make you happy, only to find that it wasn't enough? Maybe it was a promotion you worked tirelessly for, a relationship you believed would complete you, or a goal you thought would bring you lasting satisfaction. And yet, once you achieved it, the fulfillment you expected wasn't there. It's a common story, isn't it? We chase after things, believing they'll fill the emptiness inside, only to find ourselves still searching. But here's the truth: we often overlook the fulfillment we're looking for isn't found in things. It's found in the presence of God. God's presence is unlike anything this world can offer. It's not temporary, not dependent on circumstances, and not something you can lose. It's a fulfillment that comes from being connected to the source of all life, the one who created you, knows you, and loves you completely. In his presence, you find the peace, joy, and purpose that nothing else can provide. It's like finding water in a desert, refreshing, life-giving, and exactly what your soul has been craving. What makes God's presence so fulfilling is that it meets you exactly where you are. You don't have to have everything figured out, be perfect, or even have all the answers. God doesn't wait for you to clean up your life before he draws near. He steps into your mess, your struggles, your doubts, and he meets you with love and grace. In his presence, you are fully known and fully loved, and that knowledge brings a fulfillment that nothing else can match. God's presence also gives you a sense of belonging. In a world where it's easy to feel isolated, overlooked, or misunderstood, his presence reminds you that you are never alone. He is with you in every moment, celebrating your joys, comforting you in your pain, and guiding you in your uncertainties. His presence is a constant, unchanging reality, a reminder that you are seen, valued, and cherished. And when you live with that awareness, you begin to experience a deep, abiding fulfillment that nothing else can replicate. But fulfillment in God's presence isn't just about feeling good, it's about being transformed. When you spend time with him, his love changes you. It softens your heart, renews your mind, and aligns your desires with his. The things that once seemed so important, status, possessions, recognition, begin to fade in comparison to the richness of his presence. And the things that truly matter, love, kindness, faithfulness, begin to take root and flourish in your life. God's presence also fills you with joy, real, lasting joy. Not the kind that comes and goes with your circumstances, but the kind that endures even in the hardest times. It's a joy that bubbles up from within, grounded in the knowledge that you are loved by the Creator of the universe. This joy becomes your strength, your refuge, and your song, carrying you through life's challenges with a sense of hope and purpose. In his presence, you also find peace. Not just a temporary relief from stress, but a deep, soul-satisfying peace that surpasses understanding. It's the kind of peace that allows you to rest even when the world around you is in turmoil. It's a peace that comes from knowing that you are held by the one who holds the universe, that you are cared for by the one who knows every detail of your life. Finally, God's presence gives you purpose. When you spend time with him, he reveals his plans for you, plans that are good, plans that bring hope and a future. You begin to see your life not as a series of random events, but as part of a greater story, a divine narrative that He is writing for His glory and your good. And in that purpose, you find a fulfillment that is lasting and complete. So if you've been searching for fulfillment and coming up empty, know this: what you're looking for isn't out there in the world. It's in Him. His presence is all you need, and when you live in that presence, you experience a fullness of life that surpasses anything this world could ever offer. As we draw to the end of this message, let me ask you, what are you holding on to that is keeping you from experiencing the fullness of God? Is it fear, doubt, or the relentless pursuit of things that cannot satisfy? The truth is, everything you've been searching for, peace, purpose, strength, love, fulfillment, has been right in front of you all along. It's not found in the fleeting promises of this world, but in the eternal, unshakable presence of God. He is all you need, and He's been waiting for you to realize that. Life will always have its storms, its uncertainties, its moments of deep longing. But when you make God your foundation, your anchor, your source, you're no longer tossed about by the waves. You're held steady by the one who knows you completely, loves you unconditionally, and walks with you through every high and low. His guidance is perfect, His power is sufficient, and His love never fails. Imagine what your life could look like if you stopped striving and started trusting. If you let go of the burdens you were never meant to carry and let God fill the spaces in your heart that nothing else can reach. Imagine waking up each day with a peace that surpasses understanding, a joy that cannot be shaken, and a purpose that gives every moment meaning. This isn't just a dream, it's the reality God offers when you choose Him above all else. So today, I urge you to make a decision. Not tomorrow, not next week, but right now. Choose to let God be the center of your life. Choose to trust His plans, rely on His strength, and walk in His love. Surrender your fears, your doubts, your desires, and watch as He transforms your life in ways you never thought possible. Because the moment you stop trying to do it all on your own and start leaning on Him, you'll discover a truth that will change everything. God is not just all you need, He's more than enough. Let Him be your peace, your power, your purpose. Let Him be your anchor, your guide, your fulfillment. Let Him be everything. Because in Him, you'll find everything you've been searching for and so much more. God is all you need. Will you trust Him with your life? The choice is yours.